Namaskar. Recently, I read a report in the media that Baba Ramdev had made two comments about allopathy, that is a name given to Western medicine, and it created quite a stir apparently. The first statement he made was that allopathy is a stupid and diwaliya science. This is as quoted in the media, probably a translation of what he said in Hindi. And the second statement was that 100,000 people during this COVID crisis could have died not because of COVID alone, but because of the allopathic medicines given to them as treatment. Now, the Indian Medical Association, private body of practicing physicians, reacted as if it was stung by a bee. It ran to the police station and lodged a complaint against Baba Ramdev, though it is not clear as to what they were getting at in terms of his giving an opinion. They wrote a letter of complaint to the Prime Minister, no less, asking that Baba Ramdev be reprimanded, more like like going to the schoolmaster and complaining about the other boy who made faces at you. And they also the next morning went to the court, the civil court, and filed a defamation suit. I haven't read what that suit says, but obviously it must be saying that somehow those two comments of his has somehow defamed the reputation of the Indian Medical Association. Now, in all this, the media took it up, as if it was a wartime story. The mainstream media in particular, which likes to always support and promote the establishment viewpoint, and it is a very deeply ingrained establishment viewpoint here for us, and probably in many parts of the world, that the only way of medical treatment, the only way that medical science has progressed is the Western medicine, which is about 400 years old or less. Now, in this, with this background, the media could not let this pass, and they went after Baba Ramdev, and he's an easy target. He's a man who doesn't speak the Western language, he doesn't dress in the Western way, he has studied medicine which is totally traditional, and he's very, very, very successful. And this combination is something that they cannot stand, I think. And they went after him very crudely, and they attacked him with words worse than the words that he has used. And if one really wanted to ask him what he meant by it and to do further research on these two very important comments, I think they may have gained a lot more and informed us, readers and viewers. Rather, they assumed that what he said is wrong and that he has to apologize. Well, that's what happened. Even our health minister, who is the former health minister, who has been now sacked, for poor chap, for no fault of his, but he came out and requested Baba Ramdev, "Arey yaar, there is so much sound and fury, sorry bol do." And so Baba Ramdev kind of did not retract, but he made a placatory statement saying, "I'm not attacking all of allopathic science, but there is some some deep gaping hole in their science of medicine itself." Now, I think there is something very important in all this happening. This is an event which happened a few weeks ago, and it's over now, but it's got a deeper significance, and I would have liked to share this with you right then, but I was traveling. And please let us spend 10 minutes looking at some aspects in this which are not very obvious, but which are very relevant and meaningful to us. The Indian Medical Association's actions, of lodging a complaint and going to court, etc., are not so important. What is important is what they said later, and that is that they called Baba Ramdev a quack. When an offer was made to have a debate, a debate in good spirit, on the content of what Baba Ramdev had said, the IMA rejected it and said, "You, that is Baba Ramdev, or his senior colleague Acharya Balakrishna, neither of you have got an MBBS degree, so you're not qualified, so we cannot debate you. Now this, it really opens up a conditioning which is so very deep in educated India, that we look at our own people as backward and uneducated, even if they are like Baba Ramdev and Acharya Balakrishna, who are so senior and well respected and have done tremendous work and have achieved so much in their areas of work, which is yoga and Ayurvedic medicine and plant pharmacology. Despite them being almost celebrities, for us, for our media intellectuals and for our elite, to still hold that opinion in our minds that anyone who doesn't speak the Western language, has studied in a Western style of college, and who doesn't dress like a Western and who does not practice Western medicine is uneducated. That is such a serious blot on us, isn't it? I remember when I spent so many years traveling all over rural India as a journalist, I have seen that the Indian village community system has a Ved in every corner of this country. Almost every village or every group of a dozen villages will have a Ved who has not done MBBS in these modern institutions, but who has learnt from a senior Ved in our traditional parampara, which is our traditional system of education. We had our system of education. The distinction between education and literacy is something that should be ingrained right at the start, isn't it, for anybody to be called an intellectual. On the contrary, the other has happened. Modern education has only provided arrogance to the intellectual. It has made the elite very arrogant about its own position and given him a kind of superiority complex in looking down at his own countrymen. We have the medicine system, Indian medicine system, which is not just Ayurveda, but also SIDH and also Unani, and also Tibetan medicine is closely related to Indian medicine. And all of these have been actively in operation for thousands and thousands of years. It is really a shame that I think that we should still hold this view that the one way in which science can happen, the only one way in which medical treatment can happen, and for that matter, the only way education can happen, the only way governance can happen, the only way economics can happen is this modern method. This is a very deep conditioning, isn't it? And let us look into it, because I think somewhere all of us, not our fault, that is what we have been fed by the modern environment in which we have grown up in cities, our books, our education, our television, internet, etc. I think it is worthwhile looking at this. And somewhere, not just us, but many of my friends in Europe and the US are also appreciating this fact. You will find on the internet a lot of views, They call it alternate. That's a little unfortunate. I mean, our system of medicine is 3,000 to 5,000 years old. We can say that the Western system is an alternate which came here 200 years ago. But it's all right. They call, because that has become dominant and that is mainstream now, they call these as alternate. Let us not fight over the words, but there should be space for the alternates, isn't it? And respect. Irrespective of how I dress, irrespective of the language I speak, irrespective of my critical opinion about your method, I deserve respect. There is a second aspect about this. The media's insistence that such a thing should not be said. The media's insistence, and supported by the intellectual elite of the day, that we will not allow you to criticize the establishment method of doing things. Now this episode of Ramdev's is just a small thing, but it indicates something so much deeper. Let's take the example of COVID, corona, which has hit us, all of us, so suddenly that the great Western medicine with all its great achievements is completely caught on the wrong foot, on the back foot, or whatever the phrase is, and they are quite helpless, and in their helplessness they have given all these emergency approvals and to vaccinations, and they've shortcut their own stated procedures because they are just completely nonplussed at the moment. And even internationally, even in the West, if there are people who stand up and ask and question the FDA's approval of a certain drug for treatment, if they question the way the vaccination process has taken place, if they question the methodology and the efficacy of these vaccinations, can you believe that internationally, just like in India against Ramdev, there is a whole lot of attackers who will immediately come, and they are the big players, including Facebook, including YouTube, including Google, and including the big mainstream media, and they pull down the content. First they will warn you, don't say this, then they'll attack you and say, no, you can't say it, you're a fool, you're no one, you're a conspiracy theorist. This is the pet phrase for, if you don't agree with something, say it's a conspiracy theory. And beyond that, if that content is still there and it is getting rave reviews, because you see the internet is that, the establishment elite may say, you must follow this, but if somebody is telling something which appeals, then the internet quickly makes it viral, and there are millions and millions of views. And then guess what they do? They take it down. They take it down from internet, from YouTube, from Facebook, from Twitter, from Google searches, etc. This has happened. Please, this part that it has happened has not been pulled down. You can find analysis and pros and cons and debates on this subject on the internet. We say we are liberal, and are we liberal? I mean, really, to even to ban people who question the establishment view. That is what we thought the dictators do, isn't it? That is what we think communist China would do, or the erstwhile Soviet Union would do. That is what we think that Saudi Arabia would do. But that is what the United States, European nations, and India are also doing. We should be very careful about this. And it works both ways. I know some of you may be hearing things I'm not saying, that, oh, this must be the left, this must be the right. I'm not going into the left-right thing, now. I'm only saying that anyone who's in power, just look at this. The established Western medical practice is so powerful. The modern medicine is so powerful. It doesn't need to do, really go after others like this, does it? I mean, it is dominant. That is being pushed all over the world, and most governments all over the world are welcoming it and taking it blindly, with blind superstition. And yet, with so much power in you, you still are somewhere insecure that you want to silence the other guy. It is like in politics, what we are seeing in our government right now. Our present government has a brute majority in parliament. It also has brutally captured most of the institutions, judiciary, Central Election Commission, Vigilance Commission, etc. And yet it buys an Israeli spy software to spy on people who have dissenting opinions. And then it sends, it does some nefarious activities of sending, police and other judicial forces, behind those people. When the most powerful start acting so insecure, you can know that they're really fearful and they don't have a solid ground to stand upon. Now let us briefly go into the content of those two statements that Baba Ramdev has made. The first one was that allopathy is a stupid and Diwaliya science. The word stupid, let us ignore it. It's used in a state of irritation, I think, and that can neither be proved nor disproved. But the word Diwaliya has not been translated, and that's good. It indicates a state of bankruptcy. So what is Baba Ramdev trying to say? Obviously, he's not saying that the Western medicine manufacturers are bankrupt. Far from it. They make a killing, if one can crudely put it, out of other people dying. That is what they do, and they're making billions and billions of dollars in profits. So he's not talking about commercial bankruptcy. Entire Western medicine has been narrowed down to a laboratory in the pharmaceutical company. They research at the level of molecules, a very reductionist way of looking at things, and they then say this molecule may be good for this illness, and these medicines are given to the doctors, and doctors in modern medicine are becoming less and less doctors and more just couriers, the Amazon delivery boy. They just deliver this pharmaceutical medicine, and the only thing they do is okay, they match the illness according to their booklet. Oh, if you have this, I'll give this drug. If you have this, I'll give this drug. Soon they may be replaced by machines. I'm telling you, the day is not far off when they will think even this human being is not necessary. Let's put a machine. Because anyway, the doctor today is not doing diagnosis the way the earlier doctors used to do, but looking at a patient, complete patient, physiologically, psychologically, looking at his ancestry, knowing his family history, his own illness history, looking at the community, looking at the illnesses prevalent in that community, looking at soil, water, air, etc., which all affect health. Instead of that, today the doctors, the first thing he does is write, get me these reports. So all he is doing is looking at numbers, at quantities, they are given in a report, and based on the lab reports, even he is not needed now. The part about the pharmaceutical companies being mercenary, the part about them being unethical, the part about them being corrupt in the way, in the sense that they corrupt the government and officers of the government, the politicians, members of parliament here and senators there with their illegal contributions. In India, the pharmaceutical industry actively corrupts doctors by giving them bribes. Yes, bribes. They call them gifts, and doctors are even given tickets to go on vacation trips for their families. And the third thing that the pharmaceutical companies do is they fund and they use their money to influence the result of trials. Now, one basic thing about assumption for all of us, or most of us, is that modern medicine good is because it's based on data. It is based on trials, it is based on, there are some trials conducted, yes, but the way the trials are conducted, the way the trials are maneuvered, and the way they are influenced, the way the guys doing the trials are funded by the pharmaceutical companies, but they don't reveal it, which has come out in hundreds and thousands of cases. All these actually goes to show that probably what Baba Ramdev was saying, and even if he is not saying, I will say it, that modern Western medicine science is bankrupt morally, it is ethically bankrupt, and there seems to be no trace of wisdom in it. It is one thing for us to develop sharp intellect, and to use the activities of the intellect, of comparison, of analysis, and it is quite another to develop a wholesome sense of truth of nature and of us being part of nature, about the community, about compassion, about love. I think those things will are come under the category of wisdom. You can be supremely intelligent and not wise, but a wise man, for a wise man, intelligence is never far away. Let us take the second statement that hundreds of thousands of people have died, not just because of COVID, but because of the treatment, the medicines given to them. And I wonder why there is such a ruckus about this. There are Nobel laureates, there are top physicians, most respected physicians, who have listed out various troublesome features, because let's face it, the COVID attack came suddenly and they were not prepared. But after that, to say that everything we did was perfect, that is not true. And to specifically talk about it, yes, Baba Ramdev said it in a very generalistic way, I do agree. But if you go with the substance of what he said and not just the words, then you will find ample evidence that the number one drug which the FDA approved for experimental use, you must remember experimental, because they are not saying it's a cure at all, it's being experimented upon on us. The number one drug and the only drug FDA approved is Remdesivir, and there are numerous reports, hundreds of reports of remdesivir being withdrawn because of adverse drug reactions, because of its effect on kidneys, on liver, on whatever. And the fact that that drug has zero benefit in corona treatment is also made amply clear. So is it surprising that medicines, modern medicines given, have side effects or that they cause death? Is it surprising? It is known. So let me just take you to a website, and this shows a list of drugs which have been approved and then which have been withdrawn, and deaths and serious adverse side effects that they cause. I'll put a link of this site in the description. You can have a look. This is just the recent history of the drugs pulled out by FDA after its release, and after its release means after the tests and the proper trial and the proper data, and then they remove it after that because there are a lot of problems in that system, and that is enough for us to acknowledge. So in conclusion, I would say that yes, there is big science disinformation also. There is this establishment opinion which gets so strong and then later so subtle that without even knowing we form opinions. It's good to have a look at that, and hopefully whether we agree with the Baba Ramdev's statement or not, or his exact choice of words, at least it's opened up these important things for us to look at. Thank you very much for watching this. I will also put some links in the description below in case some of you are interested in reading more about this subject. You can do so.